Eric Woodyard, Flint, Michigan finest. I cover the Detroit Lions as part of ESPN's NFL Nation. So my role is writing specifically most of the time, but they also ask me to do some appearances on podcasts or radio stations, or if they need me for like television hits. So I've been on SportsCenter a couple times. Just whatever they need that's related to the Lions, but I also help with the basketball coverage, with NBA a little bit, and I also help with boxing coverage.
Okay, and just going through your career, give some examples of what you've done, especially from the start of your career within sports and then now.
I think
so just get a little bit more specific.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is developing relationships. So that could be, trying to break news. That could be trying to tell feature stories. That can be doing anything related to journalism. But, number one, being ethical. So, I'm writing feature stories. I'm, doing stuff with, as far as specifically with the Lions now, that could just be anything. If guys might have a Thanksgiving event or something, I'm covering that. I'm trying to meet family members. I'm writing those stories. I'm doing television hits. I'm doing all of that. As far as like my start, you want me to take me back the timeline of my career as well? So I graduated from Western Michigan in 2010. How I got into the industry, I had a teacher in high school named Miss Herman, and she told me I was a good writer. So I come from one of the rougher areas of Flint. I didn't really know what you could do with writing. So when I got to Western Michigan in 2006, I asked like, what could I do to mix basketball and writing? Because I was, growing up in Flint, it's a basketball city. So in 2000, seeing the Michigan State Spartans win a championship with my team, Cleves and Morris Peterson, Charlie Bell, and those guys, that kind of lit a fire into us. But I got to a point where I'm like, I'm not that good to play basketball on that level, so what could I do to still be attached to it? And I was like, hey, what can I do to mix basketball and writing? I had this teacher who told me I was good, and they were like journalism. So I kind of got into sports journalism from there. I took internships in broadcast and writing as well. I worked for the school newspaper, the Western Herald. Shout out to Western, go Broncos. So I graduated in December of 2010. In January of 2011, I was hired by MLive in the Flint Journal back then. We still had a paper back then. So I started from there from 2011 to 2017. Developed a lot of great relationships along the way. We had 3 NBA players come out at the time. Monte Morris, Miles Bridges, Kyle Kuzma, and then we had Olympic gold medalist, Clarissa Shields. In the NFL, we had Mark Ingram getting drafted. Anthony Durrell was a super middleweight champion. So came at the right time, like where I was able to develop relationships, tell these great stories. And then after I worked there, I went to Salt Lake City, Utah. People thought I was crazy to go out there. Even my own mom, like, what's in Utah? But I took an opportunity. So I covered the Utah Jazz for 2 years, and I hit lightning in the bottle again. With Donovan Mitchell was a rookie, so he ended up becoming an all-star, slam dunk champ. They went to the playoff 2 years, and I think that really catapulted me to get to the next level. So by 2019, after 2 years of being in Utah, ESPN hired me. So I started off doing basketball, the Midwest regional coverage of all NBA. So I was living in Chicago, but I covered the Bucks a lot with Giannis Antetokounmpo. That was the best team of the region at that time. Covered them, the Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, Milwaukee Bucks, Minnesota Timberwolves, all the teams in that region. And once the pandemic hit, I wanted to come back to Michigan, and they offered me an opportunity to switch over to football. It was very uncomfortable, but I think it showed my versatility and wanting to get better by trying a completely different sport. So I'm covering the Lions for the second year. They're kind of on the upswing a little bit, so it's been pretty cool to seeing them winning 4 of the last 5 games, and it's given me an opportunity to learn the whole other side of journalism by covering football.
So, multi-tiered, and then you have worked with many people, and that goes from sources and also other people in the newsroom with you. So, what have you learned about leadership within sports journalism, whether that's, building a relationship with your sources, or whether that's working with other sports journalists to tell stories?
I think the number one thing is being authentic. Be yourself. Don't go in there trying to overdo it. Don't force conversations if they're not there. These people are human beings, number one. So if you can humanize the athlete for yourself internally, then you can broadcast that when you're reporting to everybody else. Because essentially that's what you're there for, is to report the news. You're not the news. The subject is the news. Always remember that. The subject is the news. And when you can keep that in mind and humanize these people, that's when you get the best stories, because they come from the most unlikely things sometimes. Like, you could be talking to somebody normally and a story might come out of that. Hey, you mind if I tell this story? Or if you have to tell a bad story, sometimes if you come to them and you be authentic and real about it, they might not like it, but they respect you for giving them an opportunity to tell their side, and you're doing it fair. You're not attacking them. So I think it's a fine line of like developing relationships and being fair, and not doing too much PR type stuff, you know, telling the truth story. So I think when you can balance those two and really like humanize subjects and really bring that to the audience, it resonates well because they know that you're doing your homework, you factual, you're not just trying to have clickbait, and you're doing it the right way.
Right. So getting into making sure you tell the facts. We live in a generation where most news, especially for sports now, is instantly on social media. So someone in my generation would prefer to just click on something like Bleacher Report or I don't know any more of them, but basically something other than ethical AP style or print journalism or news that has been done in the newsroom. So how do we keep that trust with the people who just want to go to these sources instead of maybe going to you as a source?
I think it's a fine line of that. So I think, we got to do that too. You might be at a practice event and somebody got something cool. Like the other day I had the rookie Jamison Williams for the Lions. He had on these cool cleats. They were like the Foam Posit Galaxy cleats. And I noticed, I'm like, man, you mind if I get a picture of those? And it went crazy on social media. But that's crazy because sometimes you can put all this work into these amazing stories and it might not look visible on social media. But if you look at the page views and the clicks, like, you still getting read. So I think it's finding that balance of always being authentic to yourself and always putting out factual information. I mean, even if you're doing something like that, don't like try to be like the clickbait person, because it might be cool for something at that time, but in the long run, you playing a long game at this. If you're covering something, like, you don't want to just be the person that's coming up or trying to like get clickbait all the time, or trying to get somebody to say something crazy. Sometimes you got to do that. You got to get your hands dirty a little bit and come out and do the dirty work. If somebody got a DUI or somebody got a sexual assault charge or something like that, you got to tell that too. But on a normal day, that's not an everyday thing. So you got to just be authentic and real. And once you tell the real stuff and people know they can trust you, you can always keep going back to them when you need the stuff that you need.
And could you give like real examples of your work within the industry where you had to put your work before maybe a business choice? So
Yeah,
over clickbait, you talk
definitely
about that clickbait thing. So is there a situation where you like, no, I want to do the work. This isn't about getting the clout.
Yeah, it's two of them. You talking about like something that, like a tough situation I had to be in?
Right.
Two of them, and I think it happened early in my career. I'm happy because I was able to learn from it. And we had a guy from Flint named Thomas Ross. So Thomas Ross played at Flint Northern. Was a beast there. He went to Michigan. Didn't really get a lot of playing time, but then he transferred to Central Michigan and he blew up. So when he went to Central Michigan, he was coming out breaking all these records. And it was a report that came out where he stole like a credit card from I think it was like a casino or something down there in Mount Pleasant. And that story came out. Now I know Thomas. I know his mom. I know his dad. I've been around his family. Been around all them. So my first thing, once the news came out, was call them and give them an opportunity to tell their side. So I put the story out. They told me this and they hated it. They like, like cussing and all this and going. I'm like, first of all, I'm a man. You're going to respect me. First of all, like, it's cool what I'm doing, but you're going to still respect me for what I do. And I'm trying to call y'all. I didn't go with what ESPN because at the time I wasn't with ESPN. No disrespect, ESPN paid my bills. So, but I'm local, so I got kind of a in because I can call the family, I can call friends, I can get like a full story. And they hated it. They were mad for years. But I had a conversation with Thomas later on once he got to the NFL. He ended up going to the Seahawks. And we had a conversation. I'm like, listen, I was the only person in the nation that came to you and your family to get a statement or this and that. And he can respect it then. But at the time, they didn't. But I had to stand my ground with that. You know what I mean? So that was a situation where I stood my ground and our relationship ended up being back good. But at the time, he didn't like that. Another situation, I had one with JaVale McGee. He went to the finals with the Warriors. So I went to high school with this guy who played with JaVale McGee at a school called International Academy in Flint. And he was like giving these great stories about JaVale. He was like, yeah, JaVale was always good, but he was like clumsy. You know what I mean? Like, he was kind of goofy, kind of clumsy back then. And I guess at the time, JaVale was trying to restore his like, public perception, because like Shaq had been doing all the Shaq and the Fools and all that. But I wasn't trying to like paint him out. I was just telling the facts. Like, he said he was clumsy back then, and it's cool to see him like blossom into like becoming a legit pro. And JaVale was like pissed about it, but I'm like, dude, like, nobody did anything, nothing crazy. It was just like, we're not telling this PR fluff story that you want us to tell. So, it's like a fine line sometimes where you gotta get your hands dirty a little bit. But if you real about it and you're like, man, I ain't out here I'm just giving it real. You know what I'm saying? That's what people did and said. And ultimately, either they're going to respect it or not. But I can sleep good at night knowing that I'm not out trying to, like, down you. I'm just telling the facts.
And then compared to people now who just, as you said before, want to just be on TV, show their face, or just want to be a clout chaser, as they would call it.
Yeah, I think it's just being willing to make the extra call. It takes 5 more seconds to make the extra call. You might see somebody else doing that's blowing up on Twitter or something, but like if you're willing to make the extra call, put the extra work in, get a little more detail or nugget than somebody else got, you just gonna get that much more respect. Even if it's not instant gratification that day, that goes a long way because it might be something else along the lines that you waited and you got, the actual facts, and you getting more out of that person. You got an actual relationship now instead of just, I put this out, I got 5 seconds of fame, I can't come back to this person for nothing else.
What would you say is your leadership style?
My leadership style is, I try to lead with just being authentic to myself. I think it's coming out, and I try to find something with people that I can relate. So like somebody might have on some cool shoes, or they might have a cool shirt. Like I come in there, and I'm dope. You know what I mean? Like just how I would talk to you. Like I would talk to you the same way I sit down and interview LeBron James. I would sit down and interview Miriam or anybody that I'm talking to the same. I don't really like going to anything like making something bigger than what it is, because at the end of the day, they're just human beings. And when you can humanize people, it just make it much easier.
And what would you see yourself as a sports journalist in the future? Like, where do you see yourself taking your role within maybe the next 5 years as that leader?
Yeah, I think continue to tell even better stories. I think I've got so much better at ESPN, like, because they challenge you. Like, my stuff getting edited harder, like coming in with a positive mindset. Like, okay, if they telling me something, they're trying to make the story better. Being able to be pushed and being able to push back. Hey, no, I'm fighting for this. I think this should stay in here. Like, speaking up. So I think my leadership quality with that is like not being afraid to speak up for something I'm really passionate about, but also understand you're not gonna win everything. So it's like kind of finding a happy medium with whoever your editor is. And I think for me in the future, I think it's just continue to get better. I want to tell even greater stories with bigger, higher profile names, and maybe doing a little more TV. I don't really have an ambition to like be on TV every day. It's just like not really. It's a lot that comes with that. A lot of people don't see. So I just want to be a better storyteller and tell even deeper stories, better stories.
Okay, flash question time. Number 1, favorite project you've done within sports journalism?
My favorite project. One of them was the book that we just did with Kelvin Torbert, because I felt like that was special for me because KT in high school was the #1 ranked player in the nation. So I feel like his story kind of got lost. So we were able to work on this project literally since 2014, and it just came out earlier this year. So we stayed diligent with that. I switched jobs. His life took a turn. My life took a turn. And I think the story got better because we stayed with it and we didn't hide from a lot of the topics. So I think we dealt with, mental health. What does it feels like when you this #1 ranked player and everybody thinks your life's going to turn out this way, but it turns out a total different way. And we were able to get that to kids in the community and turn it into a community project. So it wasn't just a book. We have able to make impact directly in our community with that. So that was one of the things I was most proud about. And just the relationships, like seeing the guys and women that I cover, like from kids grow into like young men and young women and really fulfill their like dreams of what they want to do. So that's a long-winded answer, but the relationships and then that project. Okay.
Nice. Number 2, someone you would like to interview or someone you would like to meet. You've obviously met a lot of athletes, so name an athlete that you would like to meet or maybe do a story on, whether it's a current athlete or a former athlete, and then a non-athlete.
One I would like to do that I never have will probably be Jordan. Like, I know that would be difficult because Jordan, can be moody sometimes, but that'd be like crazy to like actually sit down with the GOAT and talk to him and have a real honest conversation at some point. So you said athlete, and what else?
And a non-athlete.
Non-athlete, I would probably want to sit down with, could it be dead or alive?
Do both.
Alive, dead, it would be Tupac. Because I feel like Pac always gave like the best interviews. He was always real authentic and genuine. And you always leave something like learning something. Even though he was young, it seemed like he was like way ahead of his years. And I still sit back and watch some of those interviews. So if it could be like somebody dead from the past, it'd be Pac. Because I feel like what he stood for was everything. But a non-athlete currently, I would like to interview. I'd probably say, I ain't never thought about that. Somebody from now that I would like to talk to. I like people that got stuff to say. So like, maybe like J. Cole or somebody. I think that'd be it. Well, no, I already interviewed J. Cole. He was when I was in college. Somebody like a non-athlete.
Singer. It could be.
It can be anybody.
Yeah, literally anyone.
It would probably be fun to interview somebody like Kanye West. That'd be a fun one, just cause like he's so off the wall and you don't know what you're gonna get, and like keeping him like it would challenge you as a journalist to keep him on the path of like what you asking him, cause he kind of go like off the rail a lot. So I think that'd be like a challenging interview, because he can be all over the place, and like that's our job of keeping him on track. And I think that'd be a challenge, like to when he like saying certain things that, hey, why you saying that? Challenge your comeback. So I think that'd be a fun one with Kanye West.
Okay, I stumped you for a second.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Number 3, hidden talent that most people want to know about you. I mean, you know how to write sports. So
Yeah.
what is something people don't know that you can do?
Dang, hidden talent. What's on now? In my mind, I'm like Jordan in basketball, but that's just in my mind. But outside of that, what's something I like to do? I like to. I think I could be like a food critic or something, like with wings or something like that. That'd be something fun, like going around like tasting wings and giving like an honest opinion, or like being a critic on something like with food or something. I think that'd be fun. Like I look at like Guy Ferrari or something like that, and like seeing that. So that's kind of like a hidden talent or something. I guess like I'm a critic with food. I like trying new foods, places.
Okay, that'll be our next go through mukbang.
That'd be
wings,
fun, going around,
talking
yeah,
sports.
go around the world
All
and
right,
like
let's do
try
it.
wings all over, and then like
Let's do it. All right. Favorite song right now?
my favorite song right now. Let me see. I'm gonna cheat. Let me see what I'll be listening. I'll be listening to. Honestly though, I listen to a lot of old stuff. So I just got a record player. I'll be listening to like Bobby Womack, soul stuff, like real deep soul. Like I like the content of what they talking about. So like I'm listening to like old school stuff. I'm listening to like Bobby Womack, Barry White.
All right, this is a test then. Favorite
Yeah.
Al Green song?
Al Green song. I gotta say, probably How Can You Mend This Broken Heart? He be talking, you know what I'm saying? He be talking that talk on there. I like when they got something to say, you know what I mean? So I'm getting to that age where I really want to hear what they talking about. It's cool to music when I'm out, you know what I'm saying, and stuff, but when I'm just by myself, I'm listening to like old 70s soul, stuff like that.
Favorite female rapper right now?
Favorite female rapper, I gotta get that to Glorilla.
I
She
knew
coming
you-
hard right now. Glorilla coming hard right now. I'm gonna get her that. She get the crown right now.
Okay, favorite sneaker
All time?
all time?
The Reebok Question 1, the first Iversons, the red, white, and blue with the blue tip, because I couldn't have them when I was little. My mama, she was young. I had a young parent, so she used to make my cousin go get all the Jordans. But it was this new dude coming out. You know, when you're young, we know about who the hot people are before they come out. So Iverson was coming on the scene, and she couldn't get past the fact that they was Reeboks. She like, I'm not buying you no Reeboks. No, why would you want some Reeboks? I remember she calling her friends like, why would he want some Reeboks over some Jordans? Like, but I'm like, she ain't know what was, she ain't know the swag was changing like with AI. So by the time the second ones came out, I got them. But them my favorites of all time.
Favorite female athlete
Of all time,
of all time?
I gotta give that to Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields, the GOAT. She my favorite female athlete of all time. She represent Flint.
Let's go. All right, all right. And then last question: what is something that inspires you every day to keep going?
My son, number one. I got an 8-year-old son who coming up, just trying to keep him focused and guided in this cruel world that we live in, and he keeping me motivated. Also, my grandfather, he incarcerated, been locked up 48 years. So just trying to keep him out, get him out. So them probably my number 1 and 2 things that keep me inspired.
Thank you so much for
No
sitting
problem.
down with Miriam Bingham.
Anytime. This is the next one up too, y'all. Check her out. She the next one up. She coming up.